My name is Chris, and we are going to continue learning how to use our compasses. And I cannot stress this enough. A compass is a tool. Think of it like a ruler, except it's a ruler for circles. It draws, we use a ruler to draw a straight line, you use a compass to draw a curved line. You use a ruler to measure, you use a compass to measure. It is no more or no less than that. It is a tool like a ruler. So today we're going to do two projects. In the morning we're going to do this one. We won't finish it. But you're going to figure out how to make your lettering fit perfectly within a circle. When I first gave myself this challenge, I was really stressed out because I could not figure out how to get the spacing so that when I got to the end, I knew that it was going to end where it was supposed to. And then I figured out a way to do that, thanks to Lorraine Douglas in her workshop. Everything I'm showing you today is based off of somebody else's knowledge. Okay, so there's that sort of morning project. And then this afternoon, we're going to do a Celtic knot. It's really easy. And I purposely colored it this way. First of all, I colored it after Judy did her workshop on colored pencils. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do some colored pencil work and I'm going to do some blending. But I wanted to show you how it's a complex design. It looks complex, but when we break it down, it's quite simple. Because if you look at it carefully, basically it's 6 triangles. So we'll talk about that more this afternoon when you get more comfortable with your compasses. Okay, so review time. Circle. The outer area of a circle is called your circumference. Okay? The diameter is from one side of the circle across to the other side of the circle. Your radius is from the center of the circle out to the outer edge. 2 times the radius equals the diameter. And here's that weird one that you're probably going to think, I don't need to know that, but you do. You kind of have to keep it in your head, and it's called the tangent. And when a line hits the circle, it can only be 90 degrees to either the diameter or the radius. It cannot be anything else but 90 degrees. And as letterers, we want to know where our angles are. Where are we going to write our letters? So knowing that the top is 90 degrees is a really useful thing you keep in the top of your head, because basically each letter is a box. And so you want to just try to, where does that box fit when you're fitting it around the circle? Yep.
We put our circle on the paper.
Yep.
Are we doing the outside rim of the circle?
We're going to get to that because there's considerations you have to do, okay? Because, well, we'll get to that, but yeah. Okay. I have a little presentation that I put together, just another collection of things I saw on Pinterest, and I just like to see what other people do. If I'm exploring a new idea, what do other people do with this idea? And this is all based on compass work, and it's all very, very different. I just thought the first one was an illuminated letter, and it's a woman showing a bunch of people, some men, how to use the compass. And she looks quite pissed off, and the men are kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what? And I found that hilarious. The compass has been around forever. I think the first instances were in Egypt, definitely in Greece. All these great geometric principles were developed in Greece, and of course his name drops out of my head now. One of the greats of mathematics in Greece wrote a book based on other people's principles that weren't exactly his own. Pythagoras. Was it Pythagoras? I think it was Pythagoras. And that book was in publication right up until the end of the 1800s. It's been longer in publication than the Bible, which I think is just the coolest piece of information. So here someone is doing the zodiac. They've taken a circle, it's very simple, and they've divided it into 12 absolutely equal pieces, and they've figured out what they want to write, and they filled in the pieces. But it's a very simple construction to do that. Okay, next one. Totally different, different hands. She's used gilding to do the center, but it has a completely different feel from the previous one. Yeah. Okay, Sheila Waters, we have to talk about this because I think this is probably the most famous piece. Look at what she's done. She's used all her negative spaces. She's gone in between the letters. She's used the negative spaces. I read that it took her 10 months to do this piece. But everything you learned today, if you had 10 months, you could do this piece. So there's someone who probably just sat down and had some fun in Germany, some Art Nouveau kind of feel to it. Okay, next. Same artist, completely different feel. Just simple stuff. Here she's playing with her watercolors. I'm going to show you how to do a border like that today because your compass will show you how to make a perfect border around something. Okay? There's someone just very contemporary, cool. And again, something contemporary, having fun with it. This one, I think this lady, no, I mean, it's incorrect, but she's out of Russia or someplace like that. But look how beautiful she is. She just used some mark making to go around the outside and then wrote in the middle. And look how effective that is. It's quite striking. And then someone just playing with circles. Again, we'll learn all of this today, and it's quite simple to do. So take out your ruler and your compass. Remember that you want your compass really sharp. Today, especially this afternoon, having a sharp compass matters a lot. So let me see. Yeah. Ruler, compass. First thing I'm going to teach you is how to find the middle of a line. When you have a line, and this seems so freaking obvious, but it's not, is you need 2 points. You need a point to put your ruler at the beginning, and you need a point for your ruler at the end. So when you're doing your compass work, remember, I need a beginning and I need an end. So the first thing I'm going to teach you is how to find exactly the middle of this line. Okay, take your compass and open it up to a little bit more than halfway. And you're going to put your point on one end. So point to the compass on one end, and it's open a little bit. I'm just waiting for people to get their supplies out. Little halfway.
Halfway between the 2 points, is that what you're saying?
Yep. Because we're going to find something somewhere in this area here we're going to find the exact halfway point. Okay? So my point is on one side. Okay? Now just draw a little arc over it and draw a little arc under it. Remember, you want to put all the weight on this side of your compass. You don't want to put the weight where your pencil is. That will put off the measurement of the compass. Okay? Do the same thing on the opposite side. See, I made a little X? Yeah, it takes some practice to get used to this idea that you're going to use this over and over again. This is such a powerful. So now I've got these little X's. I can take my ruler. Does everyone know exactly how to use a ruler? Like the perfect way to use a ruler? Let's just do it. I put my pen on the spot that I want to go through. Push my ruler up. I can go up to the other point and just make sure that it's in the same spot. And then draw my line. That is exactly 1/2. Going this way and this way. Furthermore, it's 90 degrees. Okay? Okay. Let's say we have an angle like this and like this. Yep, draw that. Just an open angle.
You don't even need numbers.
No, there's no numbers. It's not like, this is mathematics, but you don't need to be adding, we're going to use numbers once today. Okay, everyone got your angle? Close up your compass. Basically, I want to put just a little arc through that with my point at where it intersects. See where the point intersects? And I've just made an arc going through that. Okay. Now, if I open my compass a little bit, sorry, I'm going to, for the people on Zoom, I don't mean to make you sick by moving the paper all the time. If I make an arc here,
Where's your point?
my point is where, can you, oh, sorry.
Oh.
So if we make a little arc with one, and then do the same thing we did before, make another arc on the other side.
So you haven't opened up your compass? Yes.
A little bit. I just wanted my arc to be kind of where it crossed it, to be out there somewhere. The further out you are, the more accurate it is, right? If you get really close and tight, your accuracy goes off a little bit when you connect your lines, because there's always a little bit of margin of error in everything. And if I take my ruler and I connect point A to point B,
So how did you get that X for the B?
I put one of my points through here, and I made this.
Well, you did the middle line.
Yes.
Oh.
So first I did this one, so this is step 1 here. Step 2, and then step 3 is is that one? This angle here is exactly equal to this angle here, and this is exactly halfway through. Did you follow that? Okay. People in Zoom, if you have questions, let me know, and we'll review. Because these three things I show you are going to be very, very valuable. Okay, the last one, let's divide an arc in half. So let's make an arc. There's my point right here. I've stuck my compass in right there. And I've made an arc. Now, like I said, we need a top, oops, I just threw my cap, and a bottom, beginning and end of every line. Do the same thing. Okay? Just want to make sure I'm on the, there we are.
You're just putting those little X's on the arc randomly?
Yep. It's just a little bit bigger than halfway. You're just guessing where is halfway in this. Again, if I take my ruler and match up this point to this point, where I've cut it there is exactly half. See how this is basically the same idea, just done three different ways of looking at it?
So we put our point on the arc on one of those cross pieces.
Yep, so we put a point here. Sorry, got my compass upside down. Point here, and I've made an arc. Put my point here. Made a second arc. And then I've lined up my ruler between A and B. And that found me the midpoint to those two spots. Let's have some fun. Okay, before we start doing this, I want to I asked everyone to write out the alphabet. Did you do that? Yep, cool. I said before that I wanted you to do it upright, but there was also a way of doing it on a slant. And I just want to talk about the slant quickly. This is the piece that I did for Galleria back in September, I think it was. And I used copper plate, and I put it on a slant. From a design perspective, can you see what is the difference between when we write upright and when we write on a slant? When you do it upright, this is at rest. This is stationary. It seems to be at rest. If you write on a slant, it seems like it's spinning a little bit, like someone's taken the Wheel of Fortune and given it a pull, right? So depending on what the effect you want, you'll pick your font to match the effect that you're going after. A little later, I'll show you, I've got a slide in your handouts that show you how I get around getting this 55-degree angle without going too nutty with it. Okay. So you've decided what you're going to write. We're going to write out the alphabet, and we're going to do it in whatever hand that you guys have chosen. So I want you, I've done mine in an unseal. Can you take it out? Take your work out?
The big one or the little one?
The big one. Let's start with the big one. Sorry. Okay, so you've written it out, and I came up with this idea from Lorraine Douglas. Lorraine taught us that when you write something out and you want to center it, you do it on your scrap piece of paper, and then you fold your paper in half, and then you'll know exactly where halfway is. This gave me a huge idea. So what I did was I wrote out what I wanted to write, and I did it as best as I could. I wanted to get all my spacing perfect. I wanted to get my letters perfect. But if something isn't perfect, you can still fix it. And what you do is you cut it out. So there's one part. Am I going too fast for people? No. Am I going too fast? Okay.
What about if they're on 2 lines, just cut the 2 lines?
Cut the 2 lines out. And this is what I love about Lorraine's way of doing this, because mine went on 2 lines. And now I just take my tape and I figure out the spacing on my other one. And, oops. So I think mine should be somewhere around there. If you have an ugly letter, like I really messed up my K here, if you have an ugly letter, you can cut it out, put a better letter in, right? So you can, if you've messed up the spacing somewhere, you can fix your spacing. This is the moment where you want to be super critical about what you've done and how it looks. So has everyone got it where they kind of think they like it? Okay. Yep.
And then tape it right.
Yep. Tape it into a long strip.
The strip needs to be straight, right?
Strip needs to be straight. Because basically what we want to know is we want to know what the circumference is. What the circumference is. We're going to try to figure out, because if we want to wrap it around a circle, we have to know what the circumference is. So we're going to take something straight and we're going to bend it to a circumference, right? Taking out your long ruler. So I've got a meter stick here, and my meter stick is in inches and in centimeters. I strongly recommend when you do geometry, any geometric work, to use centimeters. And that the reason is centimeters is based on the decimal system, and inches is based on fractions. Working with fractions can be done, it's tedious and it's hard, and why make an extra step for yourself when you don't need to? So measuring out your lettering, mine comes out to...
So are you from the very beginning of your A or a?
Yep, so the very beginning of my A. So basically I'm imagining in my head what it's going to look like when I do that.
So we'll space it with N.
Yeah. And you're measuring it from that beginning to the end. And in my case, it's 45.1. And I always write it right down on the piece of paper right away. Circumference equals 45.1. Because if you do this over again, all your math, you've done your math, you can just refer to your little strip of paper and you'll always have your measurements on there, right? Okay, once you've found your length, you take your calculator, first clear it, 45.1, and I'm going to divide it by 6.28.
So we take our measurement and divide it by 6.8.
6.28. This is where we get around teaching you about pi. But basically, you're dividing it by 2 times pi. And I've used 3.14 as the approximation for pi.
Divided by 628.
8,
6.28.
correct. And that is your radius. So I just write it down here. The radius equals 7.1, well, 7.18, so I'm going to go 7.2. I'm going to round up. So like I said, I like to write it on my piece of paper because I come back to these sometimes and all my measurements are done. I know that it's there.
If we're using our practice pad, what's the biggest circle we can get? What is the biggest radius we can get?
Open up your compass to its fullest. So in my case, my compass goes out 14 centimeters. So I need a fairly big piece of paper to do that. If you have a drafting set like mine, there's extender bars and you can even get bigger than that. But you do have to keep that in mind. Like when I'm going to write something, like when I did this piece, I pretty well pushed as far as, in fact, this is where Betty gave me a slap on the wrist. I pushed it, this was pretty well as far as my compass could do. This line here was the maximum, and so at one point my flourishing crossed the line and made a hot spot.
So, sorry, but 10, this number we get is the radius, you said?
The radius. So if you take your circumference, or the length of your strip of paper, divide by 6.28,
Which is what? Radius, what's that higher for?
that's 2 times pi.
2 times.
No, sorry, me stuttering. 2 times pi.
2 times pi.
Yeah. The math is on your notes on page 6 for people like me who go, I don't believe you.
So first, my radius is 5.97 centimeters. Should I just round it up to 6 because it's going
Yep.
to be a millimeter?
Yep, because when we write it, you're never going to see that.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Okay, so does everyone have their radius? Everyone's,
If it's 5.89, you'd round it up to 6.
yeah. Well, 5.9. If it was 5.89, I'd go up to 5.9. Yeah, 1 decimal place. And that's basically, if you look at your ruler, that's a millimeter, right? Well, there's one more consideration that I want you guys to think about while we have our strips of paper out. I had you do the alphabet in 2 sizes on purpose. When you're writing something out, let's say, we've got the line of text and we've written it out. When we take it and we put it on a curve, I gotta just make we put it on a curve, you can imagine those letters that we're writing now, if you put them, how do I explain this? If you put the writing and you bend something, I'm trying to figure out how to do this without, and you bend it. The space, yeah, the space up here is bigger than the space down here, okay? For small text, it really doesn't matter. But when we go for something that's a little bit bigger in size, it starts to matter. It will look really, like the spacing will look wrong when you start writing it out. What I do is I split the difference. So I said that we had a radius of 7.2 in my case. My writing is 2.3, so, or 1.3, I'm sorry, 1.7. This is 1.7. So half of that is basically, let's just do 0.8. So I'm going to do half my writing 0.8 up and 0.8 down. Does that make sense? And that kind of gets rid of that problem of when we bend it, we're splitting the difference between our, the top and the bottom of our letters.
Oh, so the circle one
Yep,
is in the
yeah.
middle of that letter.
As we do it, I think it will become more apparent what I'm trying to explain, but, yeah, Lucy?
Is the baseline of the X height still that original radius though?
Well, no, we're trying to decide where we're going to, that radius, like normally if it's small writing, I use the baseline of the X height as, I would have used the 7.2. But because I'm kind of bending it, I'm kind of moving everything down a bit so that it's more like that.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, then.
yeah.
Okay.
Do you kind of, does that, yeah, yeah. If we draw that in with our compass, you're going to have a lot of lines and you're going to go, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm trying to we're going to think that little piece through to start with. So if my radius is 7.2, and I'm going to split the difference, I'm going to subtract 0.8, and that's going to give me 6.8. Good grief, 6.4, sorry, I can't do math today. And then another one, up 8, and that's going to be, my second one is going to be, I am sorry. Yes. My first one, if I had 7.2, I'm going to subtract 0.8, and that's going to give me 6.4. And then I'm going to take 7.2, and I'm going to add 0.8, and that's going to give me 8. That's going to be my baseline, and that's going to be the top of my X height. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so all the measuring for the radius, that doesn't actually get put on the paper.
Well, we do. You can kind of ticky it in, but if you start drawing lines for it, you will get confused.
Yeah, okay.
Carolyn looks really confused.
I just missed something. 0.8 is the height of your letters, is that?
The height of my letters is 1.7. I just rounded it down to 1.6 and said I'm going to go down 0.8 and I'm going to go up 0.8. I'm actually should add somewhere along here.
Wait, say that again, the height of your letters is what?
Let's do it together and then you'll see what I'm talking about, okay?
The height of your letters.
Yeah. We want to get the height of, we want to make the X height, and we want to center the X height on the radius that we calculated. So first, what we did the last time, find the center of your page. Take your ruler, go from corner to corner. Roughly where you think the center of your page is, make a light line.
Is it best to have like a square page instead of a rectangle page?
You know what, I always do it on whatever piece of paper I have at hand, and then I cut it afterwards. That's just sheer laziness on my part. I've seen my son, he's a carpenter, and he uses this method for everything, and it doesn't matter what shape it is, this works. And then do the same thing, opposite corners, side to side. Where it crosses, that point right there is exactly in the center of your piece of paper. So we have two measurements. In my case, I had the bottom of my X height is here, and here's the top of my X height. Okay? Open your compass to your bottom X height. So whatever number you found for the bottom of your X height, open it up. In my case, it's 6.4. So taking my ruler, and another trick is, it's hard to hold your compass exactly on the edge of your ruler. I always go to, see I've got it on the 20 mark, and then I go 6.4 up from the 20, so it's 26.4.
So we're drawing the line where we want our X.
We're going to draw the circle for where we want the bottom of our X height. So whatever number you found for the bottom of your X height, you open your compass to exactly that number. There we go. And you can just draw that in.
That was my radius. Okay, so then so this is going to be 5.9, so ruler measured 5.
And we're just waiting for everyone to catch up at this point.
This line, and it's 5.9. That's when I measure from there.
And then when you finish that, do the top of your X height.
Take that. You got it the right width now. Now you can draw the center. So just draw a line. If you're trying to figure this out here, so I could use it on my
But once there's 6.7, what's kind of add one.
you don't have to add it on, you choose to.
So it's gonna be really small if I do it 5.9. The circle's gonna be big.
Let's just see if we've done everything right. We can take our piece of paper here and just double check. Yep, my X height and the bottom of my X height and the top of my X height fit in there. Do you see that? And that's just a quick way. Did I do my math right? Did I figure it out right?
Then you can do this, Chris, and just put it on a circle.
I like my tool better. Okay. Now we're going to divide this up because remember I was saying that my biggest problem was when I started writing out my letters, I never knew if it was going to fit perfectly. There was just too much guessing. If something went off a little bit in the spacing here, I'd never find out about it until I got to the end. I hate that. I want to know that I'm doing it right where I want to do it. So we're going to do what we did before, and we're going to divide this circle in half. We're going to find the diameter. So I'm going to measure down from there to the edge of the paper. And I've done this a few times now, so I know it's 10.8 on my sheet. And I'm just going to find, it doesn't matter really that you measure exactly, but when you find it parallel to the bottom of it, I just find it, I know that everything looks right. Because no matter what line you draw for the diameter, it exactly cuts a circle in half. I just want one that's parallel to the bottom.
Sorry, I missed that. So you measured 10.8 and what happens now?
And then I'm just going to draw a diameter through there. And I've cut my circle in half.
I missed the side mark.
Where's the side mark? Right? So I've measured down from here to here, and I measured down from here, the same measurement down here. And that gives me parallel to the bottom of the paper. And even if I'm off by a couple of, points, it doesn't matter because, like I said, it has cut my circle exactly in half. Okay, now we're going to use those moves that we learned this morning. I want to now quarter up this. I want to find exactly what's half of this. I'm going to pick one of these two circles. I'm going to choose the outer circle. It doesn't matter. It works for both, okay? But once you pick a circle, stick with your circle. So I'm going to open my compass, put my point on here at that one point where the diameter intersects the outside of the circle. I'm going to open my compass slightly bigger than half. Actually, in this case, it's going to be more than slightly bigger. I want it to be, when I swing it over this way, I want it to be somewhere out here. And I'm going to make a X on the top, or an arc on the top, and an arc on the bottom. We're good? Okay. Same thing on the other side. Arc and arc. You might have to open your compass quite a bit. Want me to do that again, that move? Okay, okay. And then when you connect the 2 points, see when I line up my ruler, it goes through the center. It lines up here, lines up here. That's how you know you did it right, when it goes right through the center. And when you pull your pen or pencil through it, you should feel that little divot when your pencil where you put your point of your compass. Okay? Now we're going to divide it into, so that now it's in quarters, divide it in eighths, and then do it again into 16ths. Okay? Same method. You can make your compass a little smaller each time. And I'm going to do these points.
So we just keep moving around to the quarter.
Yep. Yep.
My compass won't get that big.
No? Let me see if my other compass... You can do it inside the circle too. If your compass doesn't go that big, it can go inside. Because anything along here, yeah, if you do the inside, it's the same thing, because this line is going to pass through the inside of the circle.
So I'm starting from the inside circle, from the center.
From the outside, but it's pointing inside, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to do the outside here.
Inside circle.
No, not the outside circle. And I'm okay, so maybe doing this as the outside, where the lines intersect, so where this line is inside to the center. And they come to the outside.
If they're not going through the center,
It's like we did at the very beginning.
If it's not,
So it's
you
this now.
try it again. You're probably using a different circle.
yeah,
Pardon?
Can you say it again in the slower
in the back row.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping I wrote the notes out clear enough that when you go to do the notes, you're going to go, oh yeah, I remember we did that. So do this, so you've done it. I've got,
If your ruler is going straight through it and your ruler is long enough, you don't have to do it for the other side.
you don't. You know what? That's absolutely true, but I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I want to know that I've done it right.
It's just so, okay. Are we bisected how many times?
We're going to turn it into sixteenths. So when you do the diagonals, it puts it into eighths, and then do it one more time into sixteenths. Or something stronger?
Yeah. You go from this, but outer point down.
So you've got this one, and now you want to go between half and half. So put your compass point here.
Yeah, I've got so many little lines in here.
Yeah.
On the outside. How are you doing, Sandy? Oh, he's lovely. All right, thank you. She's smart. I don't think we need to
Go there. I'm like, oh, but yeah, that was really helpful. About racing.
As soon as I realized that, I don't know, bisecting them.
Yeah, as long as bisecting each angle, I mean, matched up, but
Yeah, we'll get rid of those.
different. I must admit, I do love the action line.
I was new was the way to do this. It's also type this, like how people make a thing like this.
So when you're done, it should look something like this. Yep. Are we there? Okay, 2 more minutes and then we'll go on, okay? Okay, I'm going to go on because we are going to go in a break in 15 minutes, and you can work on this during the break if you've got behind. Take your little strip of paper. This is the brilliance of this method. I love it. And this is Lorraine's taught us this. Take your piece of paper and fold it in half.
I just have a question about the extra edge that I had before my A. I don't know how you know what I'm
Figure out where you want the join to be, yeah.
Because you can see where it's
And fold it from that spot. Oh, she's already figured out what I'm going to do. So fold it again. This is half. Fold it again. Quarters. Half again. 16 or eighths. One last time. You've got 16ths. And then I take a pen. Open it up. And where I've done it, every fold, I just draw a line. I read another method that someone did, and it was so complicated. I just thought, well, why would you do something this complicated when it's really quite easy to do?
I'm going to guess it's an online application.
I think it would take me longer. Once you get used to doing this little bit in the beginning, it's fast.
Yeah. Is reminding me making snow like little angels.
Okay. So we've got it all written out. We've now divided into 16ths. Now, it's easy to write in your lettering. You know that my A is going to have to fit in from the beginning of this to here. So the A is going to be, if I wrote the A in, it's a little bit more than half. So the bottom of my A is going to be somewhere around there. My B is going to be starting somewhere around there. And it's going to come out somewhere around here. See, now all you have to worry about is doing one segment at a time. If you keep your lettering consistent with what you've done in each segment, you're going to be bang on when you get to the end. Does that make sense? Well, you know what, and Lucy, I do go out a little bit, but you know what, but it's such a small little segment that I can correct it in the next little segment and not mess it up by the time. It's when you're taking a mistake and exaggerating it over the whole thing that you're out wildly. The other thing is, and this is a Suzanne Cunningham tip, she says that when she doesn't have things balanced, she puts in a flourish. So, for instance, where's the example? What we're doing. Here, on the Z, I just added a flourish on purpose on the Z so that if I was out by a little bit, I could fix my flourish and no one would ever know that I've been out a little bit.
So where do you, like I'm starting with an A, Chris, where do you suggest I start? You know,
It's
the spacing.
100% up to you.
Okay.
In my opinion, well, no, it's 100% up to you. I don't even think, I usually start, you know, because that's just North America.
Yeah, I'm sort of feeling about like 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and that's the artist in you to make those decisions, right?
That feels right to me, like
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't want it right in the middle, that's
yeah. And when you come to do the second row of lettering, use this exact same, you've already done your grid here. So all you need to do is draw your X height in there at this point. You do the same calculation with your second strip of paper. This is Caroline's idea, and I think it's a brilliant one. You just cut it, the first one, and now you know you can just sort of place it there, and you can already see a little bit that there's a little bit of bendiness happening. Remember when we said we do the letters, you're going to have a little bit of bendiness. You're going to have a little bit more white space at the top here than you are at the bottom. And then the other thing is, always remember, and this is why I asked you to do an upright one, the center is always 90 degrees to your writing. Okay. For those of you who are like me and said, okay, I want to do copper plate, and how do I do this? This idea comes from Caroline. I made a little template. This is bended. The bottom of the X height is bended. So I measured off, rather than going 55 degrees up, I measured off 35 degrees that way. And then I just take and you just do that for each one, and then you'll know where your slant is. Yep, and it's fast. I've made one of these for everyone so that you can go home and kind of play with that. No, these are all of other people's ideas that I kind of went, I can use that.
So can we do a letter?
Go for it. We're going into break now, I think, right?
Yeah, that coffee's good.
Yeah, so yeah, let's go into a half an hour break and you can start putting things in. It is a perfect square around there and that is 90 degrees there. So the other way is if you don't want it to touch, say I want it to be bigger and I don't want it to touch I want to make a border around this. Open up your compass to the size that you want. Put it in the center of your circle. Say I want it that big. Make an X each way. Connect up those lines. Just showing you how to make a border. This just gives you more flexibility for design in the future. And you see that? Those lines are absolutely parallel. It's 90 degrees, and there's all sorts of things you could do with that. All you need to do is stretch these diagonal lines out as far as you want to go, and you can always make a perfect square around your circle, and it will always be exactly the same distance from the edge of your circle. I know, simple but very cool. Okay, let's do a Celtic knot. No calculators, no measuring this time. But make sure at this point, really make sure the point of your compass is sharp. If you had to, just take a second to sharpen your pencil because accuracy will matter in this project. So let's do what we always do and find the center of our paper, going corner to corner. Okay. Then draw a parallel line to the bottom like we did before. So measuring from the center, the X that you just made, to the bottom of the page, and then repeating it on the other side. So far, nothing new. Okay. I just have a small piece of paper. I'm going to open my compass to be slightly smaller than the edge of my paper. I want to make my Celtic knot as big as I can, and I'm just going to draw a circle. Now, here's the next cool thing that we're going to learn. You haven't changed the radius on your compass at this point. You've kept it the same, open the same amount. Put your point where the diameter line crosses the circle. Make a little mark there. Swing it around, do it here. And then do the same thing on this side. So I've put my point here, and I just crossed it, again here, cross, and cross.
And that was the same radius.
That was using the same radius that you used to make the circle. This divides the circle into 6 perfect parts. Okay, and the way you know this is you can take your ruler. You're okay? Yeah.
I did mine into quarters, I shouldn't have done the vertical.
No, we're dividing into 6 this time. Yep, so I've made my circle, I put my point in the center, drawn my circle, then I put my point in this spot where the diameter crosses the circle, and I've made an arc here, an arc here. I've gone to this side and done the same thing, arc here, and arc here. So I have 4 extra little ticks on my paper. Okay? Taking your ruler, connect opposite points. This is where keeping an eye on the center always helps. If it crosses through the center, you know you're doing it, you're connecting the right lines. This is really, 6 are really important because in nature, a lot of things are 6. And what I made was, this basis right here was the basis for this project, which is a snowflake. What I did was I made my 6, and then I divided this one more time, and I had a second line of writing on the outside. I used my light board to copy my Joyeux Noël 6 times, and you ended up with that project there. It's really fast, so if that's a good idea for Christmas cards. Does that make sense? She's laughing. No, it doesn't, she says. You always want, if you're going to do this project, you always want to start at the same spot. So I just added more circumference lines. I always started my J off this line here, this circle here. And I decided that the peak of my N was always going to cross this circle here. And it was a really quick half-an-hour project. Okay, back to Celtic knots. So now we've got it into 6. Let's just put a hexagon in the middle of this. So let's connect these points on the outside this way. Okay. I got ahead of myself and I started making things without explaining how you would try to break it down for yourself. And I apologize for that. Where is my drawing? Here's what we're going to do, right? And I chose purposely to do 6 colors because I wanted to show you your hexagon or your Celtic knot is in basically 6 repeating shapes. So you know right out of the gate, if you were to make this, you have to divide your circle into 6 because you've got 6 repeating shapes. And then you just look for things that repeat, things that, does that look like it's half? Does it look like it's, and I don't know, you start to break it down in your head. Like I know I've got a circle and it touches exactly here. So somehow I've got to figure out how to put a circle so that they always touch exactly here. This looks like another half circle. It's got to somehow go off the bottom. So that's why we put that bottom hexagon line in, so that we can make another circle going off here. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's where we're aiming for. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to put this circle in here. So, because I've done this project before, I know that I have to divide this line in half, okay? And we know how to do that. Remember the first exercise we did the cross above and below that line to find the midpoint of a line. So, I'm just going to put open your compass slightly bigger than halfway. Make an arc above, make an arc below. Then the other side of what we've done, I'm going to do an arc above, arc below. If I connect those two points, that's exactly half. And I've just made a little tick because I want to draw a circle rather than a line. So adjusting the radius of your compass. Drawing a circle.
I had to practice my math was wrong.
Okay? Everyone with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we're going to put these circles in, and they're going to touch exactly on these spokes that we've made on our hexagon. They're going to touch exactly here. So I'm going to put the point of my compass at the point where the circle intersects the spoke, on the smaller circle intersects the spoke, and then I'm going to adjust my compass so that it just hits that line, the next line over. Does that make sense?
One second.
So I'm going to put point of my compass here where the smaller circle intersects one of the spokes. And then I'm going to adjust the width of my compass so that it exactly touches this line here, the adjacent line. Does that make sense? Okay, draw in your circle. Whoops, without moving the point of your compass. And this is where I told you something was going to be inaccurate on mine. This shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have gone over like that. It should just touch.
So that was going to be just small.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a couple of people who've done something wrong. Let's just take a minute so that everyone gets.
You do that 6 times?
You do it 6 times.
So you just go step 1 to get the inside circle?
The step 1 to get the inside circle, we found the midpoint of this line here. And we put an X here to find the midpoint. Then we opened our compass so that it went from the center to that where it intersects. And we drew this circle in.
And how did you get the midpoint from those 2 marks on the side?
Yes, it's that method that we used this morning where we use the crosses above and below a line.
Oh, and then you
Go
go through.
through. So yeah, if you connected those 2 spots with your ruler, That's where it intersects the spoke. So do that 6 times.
You know, if our math teacher had taught us how to make snowflakes and facts like this, I would pay more attention.
Yeah. I'm not doing a good job.
Just go to the part where we find the center of the segment line, because I did that wrong.
Okay.
Everything else is very wrong.
So, let me see, I think it's in your notes. Let's back up. So go to page 14 of your notes, have you got it? So in steps, it says step 7, basically in the red, you'll see 7s. So to find the midpoint of that line, I took a segment, took my compass, and I made an X above, or an arc above and below, and I did the same thing on the other side.
Okay.
And if you connect those 2 points, where it crosses the spoke is the midpoint. Yep. It doesn't matter which segment you do, it should work for everyone.
For the smaller circles around,
Yeah.
you just manually adjust the size so that it hits.
No, it hits the, yeah, I just manually adjust. Once I've had that mark that I've made, so, and then I just adjust my, my compass to be exactly where that mark is. Does that make sense? So I've connected that and that. I'm sad because I'm doing not a good drawing this time. I'm not accurate. But there you would use that distance to make your circle there. You want a flower? You want flowers?
The back row is finished.
Okay, let me catch up.
Okay, wow. I can find that any small area is.
Exactly. And mine is very off because of the magnification of the error. I did warn you to sharpen your pencil. Exactly. Yep.
So when I do this to get the
Yep. So now you've made this circle. Now to make your next,
don't touch or don't stay within.
so now you put your point here and adjust this radius
Okay.
so it just kisses that spoke, right? Just about there. And it should be perfect for each one. Sometimes you have to adjust it. If you made a little error, you're gonna have to adjust it. Yeah. So basically, so far, we've got these circles here. We've put these circles in there. Well, we've put the outside of these circles in, okay? So now let's put the outside of these half circles in. No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay, what did I say in the beginning? You need 2 points to make a line. If you see this crossing here, we know that we've just made arcs, right? So that, if I were to connect these, that would divide that exactly in half, right? Does that make sense? Where our circles intersect divides this line exactly in half, if I were to match that up. So then you can just put a little mark there on your 6 hexagon parts, which is halfway through this outside line of your triangle. Does that make sense? Okay.
Mark goes on the straight line.
You're going to make, so see where this intersects here and it intersects there?
Yeah.
That's just exactly the same as doing your arcs that we did earlier. So I know if I connect those 2 points, I've just divided this line in half. Yep, we're just going to find the halfway point of each one of these outside lines.
See what is 14 pages in handouts.
I tried to do all the steps.
Yeah, no, because it's so confusing in here.
Well, you know what blows my mind is that these are ancient designs. These are people who probably didn't have a very good education. And they played with their compass and they looked at it and they saw these designs. They somehow figured it all out, and that just amazes me.
Maybe they just use jar lids.
You know what? I used to do that, but you go through your kitchen and then is this diameter? Is this diameter? Is it this? Like, this is so much easier than going through my kitchen and trying to find the right size. Okay, once we found that, without changing the diameter, we made those circles, and we have a diameter on our compass. Put the point on one of those ticks and draw a half moon. The tick you made that was halfway through the outside of the hexagon. Here. You should have 6 ticks because there's 6 sides. So you should have a tick here, there, there. Yep. The compass is the same radius that you had for the last one you made. You don't change your compass size. So it's the same size as the circle, basically. All those circles that you've just made. Ugh, my compasses.
Will it still look pretty in the end if?
It should. It should. There's always a way of fixing everything.
I think it's a good time to mention that.
Yeah, see, mine is completely out here because of my measurement. See, when you exaggerate, if you have a mistake, and it exaggerates, and by the time you get to the end, it does exaggerate it. There's a reason why things are in pencil.
So all the circles should be the same, so except once you get
The diameter, you don't have to, or the radius, you don't have to change it. Okay. We're almost there. It's easier from this point on. Okay. Now, basically, Celtic knots are ribbons. Poor Lucy can't control herself. Close the diameter of your compass to the size of your ribbon. So if it's this wide, say I want my ribbon to be there, I'm going to close my compass to that spot. This is an arbitrary thing you do. And now copy everything you did. Copy your 6 circles and your 6 half circles.
Is there any advantage to a thicker or thinner?
Nope.
If we make them really fat.
That's why, that shit is. Just without coloring them.
All you do,
Don't want to do too much coloring.
So you just keep your compass at the same.
yep, the same point, the same holes that you made before on your, you just decrease the width a little bit, yep.
This is where it's good to have a good compass that doesn't.
Move, yeah. The only circle that you're not making abandoned is this this halfway circle. That, we're done with that guy now. And then learn something. I can't do this with glasses on.
I'm glad I'm not in a top 10.
Mine's coming up atrocious. Yeah.
So when you're sketching out your final bid copy, you're still using this compass and these lines?
I am.
There's,
Yeah. Now, I actually did this in pencil because at the next step, we're going to need to do some erasing. Can you see this? Can you see that on? Faintly. Shoot. Okay. I'm going to have to describe what I'm going to do then.
If you have a DS right, it might show up a little bit more. Let's just see if I take the exposure down a little bit.
oh, wow.
Does that help a little bit?
It does, that's.
What if we turn this
amazing.
first light off here? Well, can they see it on Zoom? Is more to the point. They might, I think that's looking okay on the computer.
Sorry, I didn't even turn it around so you
Yeah.
can see it.
That's looking okay there.
Yeah.
Okay. So you should have something looking like this. And I took a lot more time to do this, so if yours doesn't look like mine, that's because I took more time.
Oh, I have a whole book called Palladium on what you can do with compasses and stuff.
Oh,
And
I-
these ancient Celtic things.
See,
It is a little magical when it works. It's
Yeah.
unbelievably frustrating.
when it doesn't,
One error.
yep.
But yeah.
So is everyone at this spot? Are we at this point now?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've put a lot of things in, now we're going to start taking things out. So if you look at the example, each one of these corners here, nothing crisscrosses. So I'm going to take this is where I love the Tombow erasers. Does everyone have a Tombow eraser? I think I put some extra at the back there if someone doesn't have one. I've got this one too. Here's a Tombow.
ridiculous amount of pens.
I know, that's,
I know, oh, here's one of my Tombows, I got two Tombows.
okay.
So we just erase all the lines that aren't.
In the corner, yeah, exactly. So in the corners, I always start in the corners because it's easy. I know exactly which ones to erase. Like, see this one here? There's extra lines. So I can just get rid of these. Same here, get rid of these ones. Well, where they cross, like, see how this line crosses here? I want to have a nice, clean turnaround here. So I'm going to take away the parts that cross.
So there is the size of this outside circle. So whatever that from that to there is, this point. Yeah, is where it's now where you put it here is half here. Up over up into this, and this is really cool because when this crosses, that crosses. Yeah, you shoot out the center, and they do. I took that really well. Tick there. I would probably just
The people on YouTube, they know this so well, they don't even bother erasing. They just go straight to the felt marker stage.
so this here,
I still get confused, so I erase.
You're erasing all the lines in the loop.
Well, these outer ones here, see on these outside ones, because I know that this circle, I want this circle to go along like this and then back over this way. So I want to get rid of anything that crisscrosses in here. That's the first place, because that's the obvious place to get rid of your lines.
This is really good for our brain.
It is, it is. I have endless respect for the people who figured all this out.
They start here.
Do it from this one fits really well. So do it from that. This one's gone a little bit into it. You're gonna go from the center to the outside. The outside edge is there. That's too much. Yes, it is. We're gonna measure it today.
Do you have any tips for not ending up with a bunch of holes on your finish?
When you're finished with the hole, like turn your, because basically what your point of your compass has done is take the fibers and push them aside. So if you flip it over and take a bone folder over there, it should push it back. If you've got a lot of lead in there because you've crossed it a few times, that's harder to take out. I use maybe a little Dr. Phil's or a felt marker or something to cover it up, but and then
I wonder why they haven't made a less pointy, I guess, like almost a plastic.
I think most people don't use the compass anymore. I think they use they do it online now. They do it on the computer. right? There's a huge movement of people who, Islamic artists, because the Islam, compass work is in Islam, and they have a zillion tips on what they've done. Yeah. If you look on YouTube,
This, with all the erasing and all the, you know,
yep.
by the end, paper's gonna be.
Well, the last step we're going to do, if you have an attachment for your compass, like I do, to put your felt marker in, then we do it, and then you can take your big eraser and just everything, right? But if I don't do this step now, I get confused when I've got my felt marker on there, because at this point, does it go over, does it go under? I rather do it now and work that out than, yeah. So for people who've done the corners, now let's do the inside. If a line crosses one spot on top, then it goes under the next spot, goes over, under, over. And look at each one of these 6 pieces is exactly the same. So you don't have to actually follow it out. You could just work out one and then do the exact same thing you did for each of the 6 circles or triangles out here that we've made. So starting, you can go over, under, over, under, over, under, and then repeat that for all 6. This goes under, this goes over.
Really confusing that the whole line is just the way it's now. Just a tiny line out there. You just need to look at this. So let's go and inside. I think these big, now you want a line that goes across the page.
So you should start seeing your design coming out. When you start erasing, taking away, you'll see the design starting to emerge.
Yeah, and this is. Yeah, right, right. And then, on the 6th, right? Yes, with the compass. So you compass. And hopefully you will shift it now. So you don't need. Yeah, it's keep shifting. Oh, it's the up and under. But I don't know where to start. It doesn't really start on the edge and come here. This one is going on top. And this up. Right? It's like a road, so you have overpass.
So over, under,
Except you're going to go under, which is fine.
over, goes under. Go home and sleep through the storm. That's why you notice that it's the same as each one, because then you can catch your mistakes fast.
That's what he did all of them. So that one, it's still a little over, now it's another one, this is an under. So it's
Over, under,
yeah, except you gotta remember these.
over.
Go back and this was almost kind of cool, is it double checks, this is over, it should be under. And then I keep going, yeah. Okay, so you start at one point and keep going, and just make sure those ends, corners,
Over,
and radius.
under, under.
There.
We're gonna do it into 6.
Goes under, so this goes over.
And you're smart to
Over, under, under, over.
Find that half right here.
Back, goes over, then this goes under.
You can always readjust.
No, it goes under. For those who have a holder on the ability to put a pen on your compass, does everyone have that? The ability to put a pen on their compass? No? Oh.
My husband didn't have one like that.
Okay. I'm going to show you what to do, and I've got one that we can lend it out, and then we can all share, and you can put it on yours, just to see what that step is. Okay. Yeah. You can do, and mine has a ruling pen with it, and I've used it. It's really hard. It makes the ink blobs. I just find that this is a little easier, but you could use your ruling pen. In fact, that's probably how they did it, right? So either using a compass or freehanding it. Okay, so either using your compass or freehanding it. We're going to put felt lines in, because that kind of inks it in permanently. Do you remember in the meeting I asked you to practice starting and stopping? This is where this comes really handy, okay? So I'm going to start here. I've done my over and under, so I know what I'm doing. Put my point exactly there and start inking in. Let's just open it just a tiny bit more. There. And this takes time.
Have you ever done this with those circle templates? Because to get works this is much bigger than you want to do. Oh, it must be this. You want to get. So that's one.
Here, that's what is on your handout. So I just did the color wheel.
Yeah, I just sort of wanted to see where you blend into the next color.
Yep.
Just so my brain didn't have to do as much.
So here's Caroline's going to know this, but when you're coloring it in, if you go under, make it a shade darker to give that illusion that your ribbon is going under, and when it's going over, you make it a shade lighter so that it feels like it's doing that weaving thing. So for those who are starting to color it in, I find this drawing really fascinating because there's a lot of ideas in it. But in your negative space, you could also start filling, you could put flowers in there, you can put in your ribbons, you can write your lettering, you can fill in any way that you want to. We're pretty well finished all the teaching part. You have the patience to sit with me and do something that took me days and days to figure out in a 4-hour period.
This segment of the circle,
It's hard.
but it is also brilliant though, like it's worth the
Oh, yeah.
when you're just going into it, you're like, eyes,
Yeah. If I could figure out a way of taking guesswork out of something, I usually take that route because I always feel like there's a lot of things that I have to think about anyways. So if there's one less thing that I have to think about, then it's good. You could do something like that.
an example. Had the self-acknowledged writing all around it, wasn't
Yeah.
it a Russian lady or something?
I think there's a few people who've done, you can use your ribbons to write on, so you could have your writing weaving in and out.
Yeah.
Or you could do something like, I always feel like the circle is just one big piece of real estate, and how you divide it up is what makes your design. That makes sense. That is actually a good point. When you first, when they first teach kids to do geometry, rather than moving the compass, they tell you to move the paper. Let me see if I can find my other compass. So for this stop-start bit, you can also, rather than turning your compass, turn your paper. There we go. Yeah.
Especially doing those black lines,
Mm-hmm.
way easier to scribble the paper.
Mm-hmm. Debbie brought up a good point. We went from knowing exactly how long our text is to figuring out the radius we make. Sometimes we have something fixed. She's got jar lids, and it has a fixed circumference. We already know what the circumference is. In that case, we're going to do the math backwards to figure out what your radius is going to be. So if you go on page 6 here, you'll see that if you know what your circumference is, you know what your radius is because you can measure the diameter of whatever you've got that's existing. So you know 2 times the radius times pi, and that will give you the circumference that you can write that in. Does that make sense? And that's the beauty of math. You can go forwards and backwards all the time. It depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
When you're doing your measurements for good paper,
Yep.
you also do your final draft on good paper to get the exact measurements?
So I've done it 2 different ways. I'll either draw it very lightly in pencil on the good paper,
Okay.
or I use my light box. I'll go over, like I think this one I did with the light box. So when I did it up finally I just shone the light box through and copied it.
Because I find sometimes that going from one paper to another totally changes what C2 does.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it looks so pretty.
My thing now though is the inner circle of the double fix is the size that the light circle was supposed to be. So Caroline and I were talking maybe making the light around the outside like Debbie did and just doing it twice or whatever.
That's the design part. You know. No, but you know what
It looks really nice, I like that.
I can't remember who said it in one of our workshops. She said basically good design is overcoming obstacles. And if you think about it, that's true. So it's 2 minutes to 2. Does anyone have any questions? You all have my email address if you go home and are confused.
That's very possible. You're okay
Yeah.
if I send out your email address to the Aldrich?
No, not at all.
Because,
But you all have my email address in the directory anyways, with the exception.
we have a couple of people that are not in our guild.
In a
so
group,
they want
yeah,
to-
absolutely. Send out my
Send it
email
out
address.
for
Yep,
people that are not in our guild,
yep,
or maybe don't have it,
yep.
or it's just more convenient sometimes. But I don't usually send anybody's email address out without checking.
No, that's absolutely fine.